Well, week 1 of Skirmish Season 10 is in the books, and from the Blitz standpoint, we saw a couple of brand new names in the top, as well as a pretty wide array of heroes that ended up topping in events this week. So let's look at the results and take a look at the projections for week 2, week 3, and the rest of the season.
A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando.
Hey there, my flesh and blood friends. Welcome back to Dice Commando, and go again, a fabulous cast. And that's right, we have the results for Skirmish Season 10, Week 1 in hot off the press. This will go live Tuesday morning, and we just got them in a couple hours before I'm shooting this. I updated the spreadsheet, fixed some errors, resorted it, and I've got it ready to go over to look at projections through the rest of the season. And very cool results. Now, if you were lucky enough or had the chance, you may have seen that I was actually live streaming our skirmish that we did on Saturday, November 30th. And congratulations to Billy. He took that down on Shiana, right? So the one Shiana win that you see this week, that was Billy. But I think now that the cat's out of the bag on that one, I think we're going to see some other folks trying it. The deck's pretty strong, but there's a lot of other pretty good decks in the format. Now, before we get into the LSS results, I do want to remind everybody, Fab Foundry is currently having a Cyber Monday, or it's all week long, but it's, a Cyber Monday deal. But it goes all through this week. So if you head over there, remember, you use my discount link below or use my affiliate link below, and I get a small kickback from that. But with that, the 10% is automatically applied, and it puts it in many cases below TCG player low. And now that TCG players 10% cash back thing is done, Fab Foundry is the place to go. So go check it out. All right, so we do have the week 1 results are in. Going ahead and throwing up LSS's image here, and thanks to LSS for putting this together. You can see 11 other heroes. So 11 hero. Aurora was the top with 11, and we had 11 other heroes top, which was pretty cool, right? That's a pretty large smattering of other in what is also a pretty wide field here. Okay, so we had Aurora at 11, Armed Kayo came in at 10, Blaze and Victor, who were leaders before, right? Remember, Victor is the top leader, closest to LL, at 8. Zen also at 8. Zen is doing disgusting things. Datadol at 7. We saw Datadol do really good things, but then Datadol giveth and Datadol taketh away. Levia at 7. Not a surprise to see her up there. ASC at 6. No surprise there. The shocker, I think, of the weekend is KO Berserker Runt. 4 KO Berserker Runts, right? That's not Armed KO. That's Roll the Dice KO. Well, no, that's very interesting. That's extremely interesting to me. 4 of them. This isn't one person getting super lucky with their tournament. That means there's a deck out there that actually can do stuff. So that's very interesting. 3 Florians, 3 Verdants, 3 Osilios. So look at that. Everybody from Rosetta on the board with multiple victories. Obviously, Aurora leading the pack, but everybody from Rosetta on the board. Dash Database at 2, Dorinthea at 2, and that's Dorinthea. That is not Quicksilver Prodigy, by the way. That is OG Dorinthea, who is also up there on the leaderboard. Then Set at 2, and then we had 1 each of New, Advent of Thrones, Riptide, Shiana, Emperor, Yoji, Betsy, Boltyn, Bravo, Dromai, Terra, a Kassai, and a Lexi. And actually, I do want to give a shout. Those Lexi decks, right? Like, there's a pretty good Lightning Lexi deck out there with some of the new stuff. Let's not underrate her. So yeah, I mean, let's just talk about that. Aurora being the big one out of the weekend. So my Aurora deck, my Blitz deck is very good. It's slightly different. It's a little more tankier. It's not trying to do the combo pop-off stuff. Aurora's very, very, very good in this format. Very good in this format. I went 3-1 at this last weekend at Portland in a pretty competitive event. One of the Blitz side events. I lost to Emperor round 1, but otherwise went through the day on that. She's very good. If you can, so I personally don't play the Flicker Wisp combo with her because I found in Blitz it's just too hard to string it together. But man, if you can get that out, sayonara, right? So you do have a lot of the. I would be curious to know what the breakdown of the 11 Aurora's deck were they all on, it's a Crown of Providence is very
popular, right, for the, or sorry, Crown of Dominion is very popular for the gold, right? So you Iron Weave and then pay for the gold, and you're just getting a bounce each time. And if you can pair it off, right, you get it, or you get it. Very good. That I also wonder how many of them were more like mine in that aspect, where you have a little more armor, so that if you run up against a Bravo or somebody like that, you can take a hit, not lose your goes, and walk away not sad that you have a whole bunch of 0-block instants in your deck. Right, so now let's go ahead and move over to the projections. Okay, and we'll talk about that as well as some of the meta breakdown as well, right? I mean, remember we have Kayo as well. So this one's been sorted not by closest to LL, but instead I've sorted this one from top down on performance of the season thus far, which is sure just the 1 week at that point. All right, so we have Aurora at 55 points with 189 wins left. So if we go and we look over at the Cume season projections, okay, those 170s are not a mistake. That's not a spreadsheet thing. That is saying the percentage of week 1 points she would have needed to earn in order to LL, right? That's how to read that. Okay, so obviously it was impossible for her to LL week 1. And what you can see is by week 3, again, this is not the weeks, this is a cumulative chart, right? So the percentage under week 3, the way to read that is the points accumulated through the season by week 3, right? So she doesn't have to win 64% of week 3. She would have needed to have win 64.7 by week 3, through week 3, okay? So 67% is, I suppose, technically doable, but she's currently at 11%. So Aurora, even if she holds the 11%, will be nowhere near LL this season, right? So Aurora looks fine. Kayo is doing pretty well as well with 50 points through week 1. He would have needed to win, so it was impossible for him again to go week 1. He would need, in order to LL this season, he would need to earn 41% of the points. Now, Victor is in 3rd position coming out of this weekend. Now, remember, of course, he's tied for a couple with 8, right? And then, of course, very close with others. But that 8, he would have had to have won 17% this week to LL out. But by the end of the season, only needs 6.5%, right? So Victor's actually on track to LL because he's currently at 8%. So if he keeps up this pace, Victor will LL in the third or after the 3rd week of the season, right? So in the 3rd week, he'll accumulate enough points, meaning he'll LL after that week, assuming, of course, he holds this pace. Blaze, of course, still good. Zen, of course, definitely still good because he got a extremely huge buffer on that. And then again, remember, we halved the previous points because we halved the weight of the previous points because we doubled it to 1,000, right? I know that we doubled the points, but that means that we halved the weight, okay? So we have the weight for the weight of the previous points and then decreased it. So last season, I believe it was 2250. So yeah, so season 9 was 2250, which would have effectively been 4,500 points under this new system, right? So we effectively we only have 1/3 of the points available this season, right? Is the weight from a weighting standpoint. I know that's not a technically true thing, but from a weighting standpoint, the impact of those points is 1/3 less this season than the impact of the points we have available is 1/3 less than previous season, right? So it is not a very aggressive season. That's why we only see Victor even in range. Let's talk about some other hot points there, though. So with that said, we won't pay attention to the rest of the LLs because probably no one's going to get there, right? We'd have to see a serious breakout of somebody else to even come remotely close because we're talking like in the 30%, right? Which people going from 8% to 30% seems pretty unreasonable in the last 2 weeks. Right. It's not to say we couldn't have like a weird data doll week or something like that where she got like 40%, but she'd have to do it. I mean, actually, that's fun fact. So data doll would need, 63% to go, which is not doable and was not even possible to do at week 1. So again, even if we have a crazy week, the only person that's really even in threat range is Victor. Okay. Now, what's very interesting here is the Azalea to me. And there's a couple other that are interesting. I'm very interested in the Azalea because he is incredibly, or they, whatever, is incredibly explosive.
I've been very impressed with some of the like turn 0, turn 1 stuff that I've seen him. You know, I think John, when I was playing him a couple weeks ago, I think he put up, or I think he threatened like 23 some damage on like turn 1, I think it was, right? Because I think I went first. I think he was able to, you know, get his draw down and then just went off, right? But the consistency of being able to do that through, you know, a 4 or 5 round skirmish seems not, and then top cut, right? Seems hard. But again, pulled down 3 of them. So that's very impressive. The Verdance one is also, I guess I'm fascinated by all of the Rosetta ones, because the Verdance, there's a really cool Verdance life gain, like Aether Strike or Surgent Strike, Surgent Aether Tide. I think that's right. Surgent, right? You know, the Surge Wand, right? So if you can amp the Surge Wand, then your amps count double effectively, because once you get over, it counts for double, right? It's a pretty good killing blow. And then remember, she's got the wizard boots on top of that. So effectively, you only need to get to like, what, 6 or 7 health or something like that, depending on if they can time it right. So that's a pretty cool deck. And then Florian, there's a mix of them going around. Most people are on the OTK, but there's some pretty good just value Florian, you know, decomposed decks out there that can do their thing. Someone who I'm a little surprised at how little they performed. And we keep saying this over and over and over again. So maybe like Blaze, I am just shocked, right? Blaze is so good. So good. I am just so consistent. I'm consistently surprised at how low she's performing relative to, I think, my expectations of how good she is within the format. So that is very interesting. And I do have to wonder if, you know, a lot of folks have skewed to Arcane Polarity, even in Blitz, which I think is a mistake, because I think you want to be able to block like Sonic Booms and stuff like that. So I can't help but wonder if just the chip damage that she puts up early, just the health that they gain, is enough to weather that out. Or maybe it's just she can't deal with the aggressiveness. So I find that to be very, very, very interesting. And then, so I don't have him on this list because he's significantly lower. But someone who I was also scared about doing a significant piece of the pie, only got 1 win, was Yoji, right? There's a disgusting, awful, it's horrible to play against, right? But CYB Yoji out there that I think's pretty good as well. And it's like, I don't really care if Aurora throws a bunch of damage at me, because I'll just like, you know, throw some things at it, survive, and then gain a whole bunch of health back, right? And so I'm a little surprised on that as well, but I guess if you can blow it down, you can blow it down. So fair enough. So those are my thoughts. Again, this is more reactionary, I suppose, than projection. The projections at this point, I think, are really pretty clear for the rest of this season that it's highly unlikely for anyone to go. Now, what'll be very interesting into week 2, I don't think anybody, like, I think if you're going to a skirmish next weekend, like, I don't think you tech based on the results of this, right? Because if you look at how wide this field is and how distributed the field is, like, I don't think you're like, you know what, I got to be able to, I mean, I think you should have a plan for Aurora, to be very clear, but I don't think you have to be like, you know what, I have to be able to do Aurora, because then you know who's right behind you is Kayo and Victor and Blaze. So, and let's not forget Levia. Like, she can just throw up a buttload of damage on turn 1, right? If you get the nuts. We actually saw, shout out to Will. I don't know if you watched this or not, but shout out to Will Brockmeyer from our skirmish this last weekend. Saw him he popped Sash on turn 0 only because he needed 1 more card into his discard to do Slithering Pede and all sorts of gross stuff, right? So, off of Blood Rush, of course, right? So I mean, I can do some pretty gross stuff too. So anyway, to my point, I don't know that you change your plan. Like, if you have a deck and you're really good on the deck and you really like where it is, I don't think you try and like tech into something this weekend, because like the field is so wide, which is pretty cool. So anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Agree? Disagree? What you're thinking? Go Commando.